Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in again. So for those of you that saw the last video with the vacuum cleaner, then some of you will recognise some of the stuff that's back on the bench again. So we've got a piece of flexible tube pipe stuff again, and I've got the piece of 50mm pipe that I cut up for the vacuum cleaner last time. So what I've sort of decided to do is the bucket that I used, obviously I'm going to have to get a metal bucket at some point, but just because of the way that the setup was, it was a bit too high, so I've just got a smaller bucket over here, and so I'm just going to put that on it. But what that also allows me to do is, because it'll drop it down a little bit, it means I can add this to the catch box, and it means I can put it on the back wall of the shed, of the bench here, and then have the actual hose for the vacuum cleaner further over here, more to where I'm making a mess with wood and stuff like that. So because of where it was going to go originally, it wouldn't have been an issue, but because of where I've ended up having to put it, I decided that that would be a better idea, just because of where it's ended up. So the other stuff that's here, so we'll get rid of those now. We'll do that in a minute. So the other stuff here is probably you're looking at it going, what the hell are you doing with all that? So what we have in here is just a remote control. So what I'm going to do with this is this will turn on, which I can then use to trigger this relay and hold it on, which I'll then use to power the vacuum cleaner and just leave it plugged in. So then when I want to use it, rather than having to find cords and reach around and then plug it in and turn it on and do all that sort of stuff, I can just have the remote control, hit the button, do what I've got to do, hit the button again and turn it off. So that is what I'm going to do in this video, and we'll get into it. So I've got some mounts here, so these will go into this channel here. So what this will do, it'll allow me to screw the remote controller to it, so it'll just all sit in the same box. And then I've just got some connectors here to be able to screw wires into as I need. This one will become the main wire into it, so I'll just drill a hole in the side of this box, and that'll get the wire into this channeling, and then the vacuum cleaner wire, power wire, which is over here, will then just go out to the vacuum cleaner and make my life a lot easier rather than trying to find holes, cords, plugs, etc. And it'll just make it easier to turn on and off, because the actual switch for the vacuum cleaner is behind the vacuum cleaner and I don't want to leave it plugged in. So the remote control came with two controllers, so I can take one inside for when I lose the other one in the workshop here somewhere. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is cut this down to fit inside this plastic box. Get the plastic of it. Ta-da. So now I've got to decide if I want to leave enough room to be able to get the things that are in here off if I ever need to service it and slide them out and replace them, or if I'm just going to leave it the full length. I'm thinking, well, actually I've got to leave it. There's two holes inside the box here. There's more than two, but there's a couple of mounting points here. So I'm thinking if I can get it to go between the two long mounting points there, then it might just make my life a little bit easier to mount it, but I can't tell. Definitely fits on the two shorter ones here. It also then leaves me enough space to do other stuff with it if I cut it shorter. So I think I will cut it short. What I'll do is I'll cut it short to here, and then I'll have a hole under the bottom this side, so then the wires can come in and go back outside the same hole. So I've now just got to decide how long I need it. So this one's just the power supply. This is actually a little small 12-volt power supply, which will power both this controller and this relay. basically if I just put all those together and then maybe add a couple of those for just because. So if I cut it off about there, I think that'll do me. And then I can decide whether I want to put it, if it'll fit on those other mounting holes or not, because I can't actually tell from where I am. So time to grab the angle grinder and get into it. But first, I'll just mark it, because knowing me, I'll forget where I said I was going to cut it to. Alright, so that's been just cleaned up, cleaning up the edges there, just because when I cut it with a grinder, of course, there's bits of burrs and stuff everywhere. So this is just the now cut piece of DIN rail, which was the word I was trying to think of when I was talking earlier. For those that don't know, yeah, it's DIN rail, used in a lot of electrical installations and stuff like that. So yeah, as I suspected from what I could see, just even though I was dangling in the air, the screw holes don't line up with so the first one does where my thumb is, but the second one doesn't. You can't even see it. Having said that, I'll just see if moving it makes a difference. It's almost possible. The hole is just so close, but it's one of those things where it's just probably not worth the effort. So this one's got two nice easy holes to get to, so I'll just screw it into there. Now I just need to find a couple of small screws to hold that in, because I think the box they give you only comes with screws for the lid. So I've just got a couple of screws here. I'll see if they okay. They actually look a bit big, I have to admit. Yeah, they're a bit big, so we'll go for smaller ones. Alright, so I found a couple of nice little black screws that I think will do the job. And they've ended up just a tiny bit too long, so I'll just trim the bottom off with the angle grinder again. Because what I want to do is I want to mount this box up on the wall, just so I can see what's going on if anything ever happens to it. Alright, now I've just got to figure out which way I'm going to put the things in. So this is the 12 volt power supply. So AC comes in the bottom and DC comes out the top. And the relay is next to that. Now, of course, having put it in, I realise I'm going to have to pull it all out to actually wire it up. That's okay. Just seeing how it all fits together so far. So I've just got a few of these little connectors as well. So I'll just sit in there just for putting the wires that run to the controllers. The main current carrying ones will be only on the relay itself. Put it on the right way around will help. So these are the little mounts that I got. So they just clip in the same way as these ones that I've just put in do. But it's just got 3 screw holes there. So I'll literally just probably put that in there like that, and that'll do it. Or I might put it sideways actually and put just a second one supporting it underneath. So again, I need a screw for that one, so I'll just grab one for that as well. So I've got the screw here. And we'll just screw that in there. That'll hold that nicely. You can see inside of it there, so it's just got a controlling relay, just a little receiver there, and the circuitry in there. So what it'll do is you can program it so that it'll either just turn on and off as you press the button. You can turn it on and it stays on, or you can turn it on and then when you turn it on, when you effectively turn it on again, it'll turn off. There we go, that's what it's going to look like. Obviously once I get the holes drilled and everything else in there and all the wires connected, it'll look like that, but just a bit messier. Alright, we'll just pull everything apart again and start connecting some stuff. Now, so I bought this box for something else, but it ended up not working, so for what I wanted it for. So again, this is just a box I had left over from something else, so that's why I'm using it. So this is the cord I'm going to use. That's the main feed one. So basically I'll just cut that off. I'm going to cut that off there. That way I can actually get the wiring in here up to the power supply, because that's all that's going to do. And then I'll need to bring the vacuum cleaner cord, that orange one you saw earlier, in so it can go into this relay. So in order to cut the wire, I need a pair of cutters. Unfortunately, silly me decided to leave them outside the other day, and of course they got wet, so they decided to rust together. So I've just hit them with the old WD-40 just to loosen them up for now, and then I'll oil them up properly later. There we go. Make sure we cut the right end of the cord. Just trim this outer sheath off. Yes, I know there's proper tools for doing that, and no, I don't have them. I do have a pair of wire strippers, but it's only for the smaller wire, not the bigger stuff. Now, having done that, I need to just extend that a little bit more so I can get a decent earth off it. So I'm just going to put the earth onto the DIN rail. I don't think I'll check it, but I don't think the vacuum cleaner's actually got an earth on it. Okay, so I'll just drill a hole for the 2 cords to go into. big one, and the other one's a little bit smaller. Alright, that's those two drilled, and that cord goes in quite well. I'll grab a grommet in the future. Alright, we'll just trim these off. I think I'm not going to need much in there. Alright, we'll just trim these off. Make sure I get these going the right way. Neutral to the left. Alright, I've just been off camera looking for a proper earth mount like one of these, but unfortunately I can't find one, so I've just got a washer and I'm going to solder the wire to it instead. So I've just got this sacrificial piece of wood here, just so you can see what I'm doing, otherwise you won't be able to see a thing. Just waiting for the soldering iron to warm up. Alright, so I'll just get a nice puddle of solder on here just to clean on any of the gunk off. Sometimes it takes a little while for it to actually take. Now I'll just trim this earth wire off. Put a dollop of solder on it as well, and then it'll go onto the washer. And as you can see, that's nice and strong. So now I need my 12 volts out of the power supply to go into this pit. and I need to read the instructions because it's not labelled on there. I have a very massive book of instructions here on how to drive this thing. I'll probably need a magnifying glass to read it. I did need a magnifying glass because the connection there for where the positive and negative go on the control board is very, very small. Luckily I can read the colour, because that's the only thing that I managed to get out of it. Alright, found my wire to make all my 12 volt circuitry work, and of course realised I've made a rookie mistake on this one, because of course I need the power from here to actually go across to this relay once I actually hook it up so that it can be connected to this wire. So I'll take that out and probably just plug it into there. So what I'll need to do is obviously take the 12 volts out of this power supply, make it so that it'll power this, and then this will need to send power through its relay to trigger this relay. Because this one is rated apparently for 240 at 10 amps, but I don't trust it. So I'm going to put it into this one. I guess what I probably could have should have do is take this back out and then put it all onto that and then screw it in at the end, but then I've still got to be able to put that in at the end. I'm just trying to get a rough idea of lengths of what I need for the wiring here. So that's to power the control unit. In fact, what I might do to make wiring easier is actually wire most of it through the terminal on this one because it's bigger. Negatives will all be joined, and then I'll just be switching the positive. Now using my micro diagram, wherever that went, right in front of me, on you, just as well I'm wearing glasses. So negative is on the outside of this one, and by outside, the one next to, not the relay, so it's that one. So that's the negative there, and then we'll find the negative on this one, and I'll loop it into the negative on that one. So when I read the diagram before, on this relay, it says that number 7 is my negative. It's really hard to see, but it says there that 7 is the negative. I don't know, I'm not even going to try and see if you can see that. And of course I cut my other wire too short. So let's join these two wires together and then put them into pin 7. So that's going in there. This thing's a bit of a jack in the box with the wire hooked into it. So again, I'm not going to try and show you, but I will try and show you. So you can see the connectors at the top there. So that one says negative, that one says positive. So we'll just pop our negative into there. So I'm trying to give all this a bench test before I actually put it all together. So now I need another wire about that same length, come all the way back again. Now the positive will go from the power supply to this, and then I'll make this drive the other relay. Now this mess of a wire is going to go all the way over there and around. If I can get these wires to sit still, that would be great. Because that's why I'm supposed to do it in the box, but I want to test it out of the box first. And before I get too carried away, I need to cut another wire to go from there to there, which I've already cut. I just need to get that in there as well. Sorry, I need a short piece, which I haven't cut yet. Open up these holes on the terminal block here, so hopefully it all goes in. If I'm lucky, it might even stay in. There we go. So now I've got power coming in. There we go. What have I done? I've used the wrong bit of wire. That's okay. So this wire comes out of the power supply with the power. Alright, fix the take 2 on that one. So power supply now comes out, power there, goes into there. So it also feeds power into what's called like the common for the relay. And then now when I put this piece of wire in, which I'm going to put into the normally open position so that it only turns on when it actually turns on, which is the one closest to power. And now that will go to my relay. So now I'm just going to rehook it back up again and just do a function test on it, and then I'll fix the 240 volt wiring part of it shortly. Alright, so neutral to the left. And my live wire across to the right. Just to make it a bit easier to see. Certainly not a bit easy to work, that's for sure. Alright, I'll just sort out some power for this and then we'll give it a test. Before I do that, I better make sure I've actually got batteries in here, because it's not going to work very well without that. Okay, press the button, the light comes on, so I guess there's batteries in there. Alright, moment of truth. Okay, there we go. So you can see the lights on there, and the lights come on the relay there, and it turns off. So on, hopefully you can see the red light there, and off. Okay, I can feel and hear this relay clicking. The light's coming on this one, saying that it should be active, but it's not. Ah, and I can see why, because they sent me the wrong relay, because that's supposed to be 12 volt, not 24 volt, or 28 volt, which is what they've sent me. So, I guess I'll go and get another relay. Well, that makes it a bit awkward to try and finish your job then, doesn't it, now? Other than that, everything's working. Alright, because I'm impatient, I went and found this relay instead. So I'm going to see if I can make this one work in there instead. So this one's actually out of a Miele dishwasher. So I think this one was the heater control. So it's got a 12 volt relay contact there, and then just two switches, so it switches across those two contacts. So I'll probably just solder a wire to those because I don't have any connectors, and solder the wire to this one and see how it goes. So I just made sure I unplugged it before I started pulling wires off everything. Now, so this one just doesn't tell me which way around the positive and negative go, but unless there's a reason for it, it should be able to go both ways because it's only a coil. These ones, this one sometimes has a, well, this one's got a diode in there that actually lights up to say that it's working. So that diode only lets power go through one way, so that might be why this one's actually polarized. But if it doesn't work on this one, then I'll just turn it around and give it another go. Alright, soldering iron's heated up, so we'll just put some solder on these wires. Now I'll see if I can carefully get some solder into these holes without making a mess, or too much of a mess anyway. Alright, that seems to have gone in there okay. Now I'll see if I can actually put the wires in there as well. Probably should have done the bottom one first. Never mind. Nothing like making yourself a challenge. Alright, they seem to have held okay. Connections don't look too bad. I'm giving them a good pull and they're not coming out, so that's good. So now I'll just rewire this to be able to hook the relay up. So I'll use one of these, I think. Now I don't know where I'm going to put this. I'll probably just have to drill a hole in the side of it and cable tie it or something. It does have a mounting point for when it's in the dishwasher normally, but clearly I don't have a dishwasher here. Alright, maybe I'll treat part 2. Again, we'll just keep everything on here. remote. That's better. Now I can hear and feel the relay clicking. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is see if I can just verify that the connection's actually going through. If I can get these wires to sit still. There we go. So you can hear that saying that the contacts are closed and there's a circuit being made, and then we turn it off again. Nice. Okay, now I can unplug everything and basically I'm going to put some wiring on there, and then I'll plug those two into this one, and I've got the wire from the vacuum cleaner just here hanging in the background, so I'll just cut those off and put them into one of these, and we should be good to go. So I've decided I'm going to grab another one of these connector blocks, because what I'm going to do is put this wire onto a connector block, and then I've got a connector block here for the 12 volt, and I'm going to use another connector block for the wire from the vacuum cleaner, just to make the wiring a little bit easier to manage rather than trying to stick connectors into plugs where they just don't want to go. So what I might do is, now I know how I'm going to work it, I might actually put everything in there, and I've got to solder a couple of wires onto this one. So I'll turn the soldering iron back on and solder the wires to there, and then see how we all go. Because these will just be active wires. I could do the neutral as well, but I'm not going to. I'll just common the neutral up off this one, but I'll send it across and you'll see it when I do it. Alright, so here's a bit of neutral and active cable that I need just to make this go. So now I'll just pull everything apart and then put it all back together again. After I solder wires onto there, I need another neutral, another active wire. Or do I? Oh, we'll see how we go. Alright, so I got a bit of neutral and active, but I don't need the neutral, I don't think. But I'm just going to keep it there to the side anyway. But I'm only using the active on this, so I'll just solder the two actives that I've just cut off into there once the soldering iron finishes warming up. Again, I'll use my little soldering table here. Just heated up nicely, ready to go. So we'll do it all over again. Just tinning the lines up. Now somewhere I thought I had a loom for one of these, so I shouldn't have had to have done this, but I couldn't find it, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to do it on the lower one that I can see there, because it's just going to be easier to reach. So you can see that's what I've done there. So they're just soldered on there okay. And same with the power for the other bit. So now it's just a case of wiring it all up, probably inside the box now. So as I said before, I wasn't sure whether this had an earth in it. It doesn't look like it will because it's only a 2-prong. So we'll cut it off and find out. And sure enough, no, we've only got 2 wires in here. So because I'm likely to forget, number one, I'll just feed this back through there because otherwise it's going to be a mess. So I'll put this straight through here now, because otherwise I'll wire it all up and then I'll realise that I've forgotten to do it. So that's both the wires now in the box. So that's the output, so I'll leave that to one side for now. This is the input coming in. So we're just going to put that on tiny blocks to start with. Alright, so that's our neutrals. One for the power supply, one for the vacuum cleaner. So now I just need another active for the power supply. Alright, so we've got the active to go to the power supply. Of course, I'll need one of these from the relay to go in there as well. Now, just as I was doing this, I'm just looking at that going that those two are fairly close together. Not that I think there's really any chance, but I'm just going to move these across. So one can be a neutral one and one can be an active one, just to reduce the risk of anything touching. I've got them, I may as well use them. Then it'll just be a little bit safer. So then what I can do is put the active from the vacuum cleaner into the same one, so at least I've got the same type of power going through the same spot. Doesn't doing wiring look so much fun? Alright, time to see if we actually get a vacuum cleaner running. Time for test. Can you hear that in the background? You probably can't hear me. Right. Excellent. No hands. No having to worry about getting cords or anything. No, I've still got one of those left over. I thought I'd run out. There you go. Excellent. Alright, I'll unplug that again so I don't electrocute myself. Now I'll just figure out how I'm going to put all this in here. The only thing I've got to figure out is what I'm going to do with this relay, because it's not small either. things first. Let's put all these cables in. Put this back in its little magic box here. Now I realise I've made the cables about 10 miles too long, so I think I'll just trim those wires down because they're horrifically too long, and this may just end up going in the side here and being cable tied. Plenty of room on top of the box because that's got a fairly high lid, so there's still a gap there, so everything will go in there still quite nicely. So I'll just push everything across a little bit first. Oh, that one's come off. So now hopefully you can see in there that the earth wire is on the metal sheath in there, on a metal din rail rather. Now I'll just push everything back up a bit again. Alright, and there's the finished product. So power supply, mains coming in on that one, and the 12 volt coming out of the power supply into this one, going into the relay controller there, and then that's the main controller for the vacuum cleaner power going out to the actual vacuum cleaner itself. So now we've finished it, we'll just make sure it works again before I plug it all up. Alright, there you go. Alright, as you can see, I've done this off camera. I've put the vacuum cleaner down a little bit. It was sitting up a bit higher than that. I've put the smaller bucket on there, and I have the new piece of hose on there, and then over here we have the controller, and as you can see, it's still vacuuming up quite nicely. So the only thing I've got to do is just fix the clamps that I put up there, because somehow I bought the wrong size. That's okay, I'll use them anyway, and then that'll be done. Alright, well that'll do it for this video. Thanks for sticking to the end. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you build something like this as well? Let me know if you think I've done something wrong, or if you do it a different way. Happy to hear your comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.